Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Punisher Season 1, Episode 2. It is called Two Dead Men. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. I always wonder where to start with these, especially when it's Netflix shows, and we're coming straight back in. This episode started, and I think for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of it, because it was almost a full hour, I was kind of feeling the pacing. I was not super invested in what was going. I liked the tease at the start with Micro. I liked him calling Castle and kind of the okay, who is this? What's his game plan? It was almost kind of like okay, we were doing character stuff last episode, but this is actually kind of what the plot of the season is more so. Obviously, yeah, sure, we have this footage of Castle's past. He's connected to this guy that Nadini's tracking down. She wants to know about Castle because she thinks he's connected, possibly. So you can see how that's all going to link together. Also, I think last episode we kind of went, oh, he dealt with everyone who had killed his family. That wasn't entirely true. He dealt with who he knew was in some capacity involved. Obviously, there's much more going on than he ever figured out before, as this episode clearly gets to. Honestly, I think that was largely us not remembering necessarily everything from Daredevil Season 2, because it's been a while.
It has been a long time, yeah.
Because when he said, oh, did you get the disc that I left at your place? I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, now you've mentioned it, but I would never have brought it up before.
No, not a chance.
So, yeah, so Castle goes to find him, and, Micro's left this little... this flashlight hitting a mirror to make it look like there's a sniper perched up in this roof, and Castle gets up there and it's okay, alright, I'm somewhat interested. But for the next 20 minutes, I was not necessarily super invested in what was going on. When he goes to see Karen, it's okay, it was fine. But
yeah,
it wasn't. I wasn't feeling it necessarily. Not necessarily feeling the Nadina stuff yet either. I feel like she... again, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with Medina's stuff, and there's nothing wrong with Billy, who she goes to see, who's someone who was with Castle. They served together, and he tells this story about how they were fighting for their lives one night, and because Castle's the best at what he does, they survived. But so they've brought him into the fray, and that feels kind of a sort of prominent character. It feels like they waited till episode 2 to introduce a couple of other main players that we're going to have sticking around, and I did like the second half of the episode more. I felt like once Castle got some intel from Karen, and he went looking... once he found out Micro's real name is David Lieberman, and he went to their house, or his house, where his family lives. His family thinks he's dead, because like Castle, he's kind of, dead officially, and he's hiding out somewhere. Once it got to that point, I got a bit more into it, because then I thought, it got a bit more interesting with his character. Specifically when it felt like he was talking to Lieberman's wife, and it was like he was talking to his own family, finding out how they felt about him in a weird proxy kind of way, because she's talking about how she feels about her husband and him doing what he does and leaving and potentially dying and all these things. And I feel like, this is a really interesting personal thing for Frank, because he's getting this insight that he never really would have got, because his wife would never necessarily have talked to him at least this candidly about it, even if he did ask. And I thought that was...
No, I agree. I like this stuff more than the first half, don't get me wrong, because I think that first half was mostly quite dull. After that opening, it was. The opening was good. Chase sequence, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's kind of trying to avoid being spotted as he's getting up to the roof.
Yeah, and I like that a lot. And then for most episodes, I'm not really feeling it. I did enjoy the second half more, but it's just not doing it for me at the minute.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling the first half after that.
I found the first half just downright dull.
It was tedious. It was kind of... And it's not tedious in the same way that, we've been using that word a lot with The Gifted recently. It's not tedious in the same way that that's tedious, because it's not bad acting, it's not it's more of a drawn-out, slow-paced kind of thing. It's almost the opposite problem in a lot of ways. But it feels like it's kind of meandering. And I think, honestly, this is where we have to hit 55 minutes or whatever per episode.
This is longer than the first episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Arguably it's not... it's one of two things. Either you shorten the episodes, or you take episodes away so that it's, instead of having 13 episodes to spread this out, we have 8 episodes to spread this out. And how does that affect the pacing? We're instead of having as much plot as we've had in the first two, that we've had, maybe we've had the plot of the first 4 that we're going to get, and that would maybe tighten everything up, and it'd make it. It's kind of funny because I don't want to spoil my Justice League thoughts because I'll be recording that in a couple of days' time, but I almost feel like Justice League and this have the exact opposite problems, but they both end up with the same kind of pacing fault as a result.
It's a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah, because Justice League, by contrast, moves far too quick. This moves a bit too slow. And
then arguably Justice League doesn't have enough runtime with only 2 hours.
Yeah.
And arguably this has just too much.
At almost 13, whatever it works out as.
Yeah, it's going to be around 12 hours probably.
Yeah, probably like 11 and a half, 12 by the time you account for all those 5-10 minutes that aren't there at the ends of some of them.
Yeah.
So that is an issue. But once you got to that house, I really liked all that stuff, especially when you see Micro. Because I think Micro, at first he was kind of mysterious, and I was like, okay, I'm down for a mysterious guy. We don't know what his goal is, and he's kind of all behind closed doors. But I actually kind of liked what they did with him in the second half of the episode, where once Frank got to the house, he lost that completely, and he was like, no, what are you doing? How dare you go to my house? Like, he started freaking out. And I kind of like that he's not this hot shot, he's not like the best at what he does, he's not any of this. He's actually kind of a dweeb.
I get that.
And I don't know where it's going to go with it, like, because obviously we end the episode with Frank like following him back, which, by the way, I called it. He was in the car. I got it.
Yeah, it was really obvious, wasn't it?
It was obvious, but I can't complain because it was still a nice moment. And I did like his reaction, Lieberman, when he turns around and he's like, ha, 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 of course. Oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But it ends with Frank punching him. So that's, next episode, I presume we're going to get some interrogation and who the hell are you? Why do you care about me? Why are you sending this footage around? And so on. So it could go either way. Like, it could go down a path where it'll lose any interest I have. But at least right now, I like that as a foil for Frank, he's not just some other badass who's really good at what he does. Yeah, he's relatively good at what he does because he's been able to achieve this much. But he's more I don't know, more of a.
I think I didn't like him. I don't like the idea of him being overpowered, so to speak. But I did like him more when he was a bit more of a mystery. Like I kind
really?
of. Yeah, I think the answer wasn't as interesting as the mystery to me.
Do you know why I think it is a bit more interesting than you do? Is because I feel like it's not the answer we normally get. I feel like the answer we normally get is kind of what I was kind of alluding to earlier. Someone who's equally as good as Frank at everything, and it's some real badass who's in the shadows, and quite quickly it feels like he's some sort of deranged fanboy. Like, is kind of the impression I'm getting at this point.
I get it, but it's just the way he's watching everything on the cameras and like everything, and I don't know, he wasn't really working for me that much. It's I like the incompetence in some respects, not incompetence, but more that he's not perfect, he's not amazing at what he does. He's very good, but he's not incredible.
I mean, I'm not gonna say I love him, but I feel like, certainly in this show, I think he's after Frank, is the second most interesting character right now.
I can't argue with that because there aren't really any other interesting characters.
I would concur with that at this point.
Yeah, yes. So you're right in that statement, but I don't think that's saying all that much for me either. Okay,
sure, but I think he's far enough over that line where I'm at least right now, based on this episode, I'm intrigued by him and what his deal is. Now that mystique could keep getting chipped away as we learn more about him, and maybe that'll fade.
Yeah.
But right now, at least for this episode, I enjoyed his whole thing. I enjoyed that he was good enough to set up that opening scene, but by the end of the episode, he got outsmarted without too much hassle.
Yeah, a little bit of help, just a little bit of thinking.
Yeah, and I do like that sort of look in his face when he realizes that he's been played. He's like, you're good, Frank. You're good. So I like it in that sense. Sticking with the idea that we're not treating Frank, or we're not treating him going about killing people as just this light-hearted thing, it is disturbing when he kills Wolf. Wolf being obviously the head of the department that Medina works in. Or Madani. Was I saying Medina earlier? I might have been, I can't remember.
I don't know, I kind of tune it out.
Madani. The department she works in, her boss, who I thought they were setting up as being this boss antagonist for the whole season, so credit to them. episode 2 is as far as he lasted, but Frank shows up at the house because he's got a connection, and he like blocked a story going out at the paper about this guy. So he goes to question him and find stuff out. And I like the little trick he plays on him, because he deliberately lets him think that he can escape, and he has the gun, and then the gun's empty, because as he puts it right before he does it, there's more than one way to make a man talk, and he makes him talk by thinking he has the upper hand.
Yeah. And
then of course he brutally snaps his neck. But I like that at least it's played with the, like, it's not treated as this is a badass moment where he snaps this guy's neck, you're rooting for him. It's no, this is kind of disturbing. There's nothing about this that felt...
It is, and it goes back to the flashback where he's talking to the kid.
Yeah.
And the kid's like, "Oh, you go over there and you kill all these people." And he's like, "No, don't you ever say that. It's not about killing them."
Yeah. I like that they're playing with that. They're really playing with the like, what does Frank consider right and wrong? What is his moral lines? Which for a character like the Punisher, I think is maybe something we have to explore.
I think it is more interesting than a traditional superhero where it's very clearly defined.
Yeah. Certainly, there's lots of shades of grey in his head.
Because obviously he'll still kill, but it's he doesn't like killing, and he thinks killing is still morally wrong by the sounds of everything we know about him.
Yeah, because when he goes back to talk to Curtis, and he's talking about, he's checking to see if anyone's like accidentally, because he doesn't even accuse him of like deliberately telling anyone about him. He's like, oh, did anything slip? Did anything? He's not even angry. He's just, did anything slip that could have led to me? That could have led to someone finding out? But he talks about how when he got back, like, like his wife and the kids, they could tell that he'd changed. Like, the bad things that he'd done. This operative where we see the video footage, and like they're all in mass, so we don't know maybe quite which one's which. Maybe you think Frank's the one pulling the trigger, but it's not.
That's the impression I get based on when he closes the laptop. It's after the trigger's pulled that he slams it shut. So the impression, at least, is that he was the one that pulled the trigger.
And I do like the idea that when he was over there, he went beyond just being a soldier. He did some things that did cross a moral boundary, even in that situation. And that gives him the guilt, and it makes, like, he already had kind of lost who he was by the time he came home. And like maybe it directly led to his family being killed. The fact that his family were targeted as much as they were. So it adds to his sort of thing. He's got this guilt complex. And I think that's interesting to explore. But I think the biggest problem with this show right now is, despite the fact that I've said I kind of like Micro, I'm curious to see where that's going, and I kind of like the complexities they're dealing with Frank and his sort of past and what's going through his head. It is paced really goddamn slow. Yeah,
and not in a good way.
And not in a good way. Not in a way that I'm on my edge of the seat, because it's, and there's times where I think the scene that stood out to me the most about this, where there's something in the direction that's just not quite hitting the pacing right. So Wolf comes home before Frank attacks him, and we see him come in the house, and he puts his his jacket up, he puts his keys down, puts some music on, some Rat Pack of some kind. You can probably tell me exactly who it was, but sounded Rat Packy, Sinatra or someone.
Yeah, I can't recall the exact thing now. But
and he's he's getting a drink out of the fridge, he's relaxing. And we keep cutting to these shots outside, looking through the window and the glass doors and all this stuff. And I'm like, I know exactly what this scene's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be suspense, that someone's going to come out at any point. But there's something about it that's just a little bit off. It's not.
I think it goes on too long that it misses the moment. Like you cut to outside that window once too many times.
See, I don't know if it's necessarily that it's too long, because as someone who loves horror movies, I feel like you could this could have been 3 times as long, and it could have worked. I think the problem was it wasn't really playing with the moments. The moment where he like shuts the fridge and like he's just standing there, like that's like, do a couple of fake outs like that. Have like, is he going to be behind the fridge door? Oh no, he's not there. Like, give us more options to where he could be. Play the scene, play the geography. Set it up a little bit more. I think it was almost played too straight in a manner where it just kind of felt like I'm just waiting for him to show up, and then he shows up.
You're right, and that's goes back to how I felt about that first episode. Is I'm just waiting for him to hit him with a hammer. He's hit him with a hammer.
There you go. Well, there was no like, oh, is he going to pop out here? No, he's not going to pop out there. Is he going to pop out here? No, he's not going to pop out there. And there was none of that, which it should have if you're going to have that suspenseful, like, because it's the way it's filmed is clearly going for that. It wants it to be that quiet. He's just at home. Maybe someone's outside watching him. and it kind of like it falls flat. And obviously, the reason why I'm picking that scene out is because I can specifically point at that and say that's how it could be handled better. That's what they're going for.
Does it work better if you don't have the cutting away from outside? You know, giving the impression someone's watching. You just sit in the house and then suddenly he's there behind the fridge. It's a surprise because it hasn't set your expectation to wait for it.
I think if you're going to do that, it has to be shorter, because I think just by the fact that we're with them for so long, something has to jump out. It's too long in the scene for it to be anything other than this.
Agreed. Yeah.
But if you're going to play it for the suspense, then you actually have to play it for the suspense, and I think it just doesn't go far enough to actually play it that way. And because of that, it hits this weird middle ground where it just feels like you're wasting our time, and it's an odd feeling. And obviously, it's harder to like. You look at other scenes where it's just people talking, and talking's fine if the talking's good, but it's just like it's serviceable. Like I can't look at a scene like with Mandina in the bar with Billy. I can't look at that scene and say there's anything necessarily completely wrong with it. It's fine. Like, and they're both kind of likable. He's like sort of like telling me stories, and I do kind of like that he kind of guesses what she's doing. He knows she's fishing for information, and even once he's figured it out and sort of called her on it, he's like, "Hey, whatever, ask away." Like, I'm not going to implicate friends, but other than that, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Like, he's smart enough to figure it out, and it kind of makes me almost like him a little bit, but it's just bland enough that I'm not jumping on board.
It's just a bit too boring that I don't care.
Yeah.
I think
weird.
the problem is with that side of the plot is, you know, we talked about how, okay, she's going after it because of this guy that was killed, and I feel like I need to understand her a bit more before I can invest in this at all, because, okay, this guy was killed, they crossed the line, she wants to, you know, go after that, she wants to right that wrong, but why? Why is she so invested in this? What is it about, you know, why does she do what she does? And I feel like, okay, this is going to be such a big plot already. This took up, you know, a good maybe quarter of the episode was this plot.
I think there's multiple ways to do it, because sometimes you pigeonhole these things and this is me criticising the way you critique some of these things, where you'll say, oh no, they wanted to do it, they should have done this, and I think that's a valid way of doing it. I think that one option is to actually give us some flashbacks with her, let us get inside her head. I think that is one way of doing it. I think, honestly, another simpler way to make her plot work better, it would simply to give her a bit more of a character.
Well, that's what's going. I wasn't meaning necessarily flashbacks. Yeah. I just mean everything is. She's always interviewing. She's always digging for information.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting anything from her. She's not giving anything back. I don't know who she is.
Yeah, she's very plain. She's very plain. Billy's very plain. Her partner is kind of comic relief, but not quite there.
There's not really enough of him to be that yet.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's almost like in a weird effort to not have archetype characters, they've dialed them back, but they've forgot to actually give them character to sort of make up for it. So in this weird thing, we've got a guy who's almost comic relief, but he's not actually really, like, you can tell he's written in any other show. He would be the comic relief. He'd be cracking more jokes. He'd be there making the goofy one-liners. But instead, he's just got that sort of like swagger and smile to him. But he never actually cracks any jokes. At least hardly any. I don't remember any. Nothing that sticks out in my head.
If there was any, I don't think I laughed.
So you've got that. You've got her who's driven, but there's very little else to her character. It's her entire defining kind of.
Which is why I mean, like, if that's the character that she's driven, that's fine. But I need to know why she's driven. At the very least, I need to understand something. I need something to connect.
I don't need to know why yet. This is the sort of thing where they could not tell me till like episode 7 or 8, and then give me the episode that focuses on her or delves into her. I think
that's fine if she's got other things. But I mean, if it's the only thing, I need a reason. Sure.
I honestly, I think she needs more personality. I think that's what I need from her to make her more interesting. Like, you know, have her, like, sure, we know she's doing this behind her boss's back, and that's okay. That's a little thing. That's like, okay, she's willing to defy the rules to get what she needs to do. But, like, you know, have her be a smart ass and talk back to him or something. Just some spark that kind of gives me an idea beyond just this kind of.
I have to admit, at the end, you know, when the boss is killed, it's like, okay, you're your ranking agent now, so she's in charge. So okay, so she's got no one to fight back against, so that's kind of gone.
Yeah, that's kind of weird actually. They kind of set it up like he was, because even in this episode, she makes up an excuse to go see Billy because Billy runs this kind of training op where they go in and they have blanks or whatever, and they're running through possible hostage situations and things, and it was all a ruse to go and see him under the guise of something other than just going to talk to him about the case. And the boss is Wolf's monitoring the whole conversation, and he steps out and interrupts when he thinks she's starting to get to something he doesn't want her to talk about. And it's like, okay, so we're really playing with this idea that he's going to be this foe, this obstacle in her way for X amount of time. So, genuinely, I'm surprised that he was off in episode 2 for that reason. It felt like they were setting him up as being this.
Yeah, it feels like it didn't really make sense.
Which is fine. Like, I have no problem with them subverting those expectations. If anything, like, I kind of applaud it in a weird way because, sure, like, shake up what we expect, absolutely, but I'm not going to miss him. I don't think they spent enough time on him that I feel like they wasted time on him. Like, he's had maybe 2 scenes this episode.
No, it's fine.
Maybe 3, a couple last time. It wasn't a whole bunch, especially she's the one who's going to carry on. But I just.
But this thing. So going forward, is she in charge now? Because that's the whole thing at the end. They go, oh no, we're waiting for you. You're the ranking agent now, so it's we're waiting on your say so that we can remove the body. So it seems like she's in charge. So now we don't have to do any of this. Oh, it's going behind people's backs. You can just go, right, this is the investigation. This is what we're doing. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because I don't think that her having the obstacles was the hook. There is no hook for her part yet. But the weird
is this supposed to be the hook? Now she has the power to go after them, so she can do something now.
Well, that's not a hook. Making the thing easier for the character before we care about what she's doing does not make it a hook.
I know.
It just makes it simpler and therefore less interesting.
Especially as a general rule, most people don't want her to catch Castle because most people watching the show will be on his side and be like, yeah, get away from them.
Well, that's the weird thing, isn't it? They're going to both end up teaming up, either knowingly or unknowingly against the forces that killed his family and also led to killing her informant or whatever.
Yeah.
So, whether they actually make the choice to team up or whether they end up just being kind of, well, he was like the enemy, my enemy is my friend kind of thing. Whether it's just that or it's more close, whatever. But
yeah,
I think that's clearly where it's going. And I think that's the problem with this plot in general is that I can kind of see a lot of the beats playing. Whether I'm right or wrong, I feel like I know kind of roughly where it's going to go.
Yeah, and so it feels like we're taking a lot of time to get there.
And sure, I expected Wolf to be more of an obstacle for the whole thing. And now we've removed him. Like, I'm not sure what the new obstacles are going to be. I'm sure there will be some, and that's fine. But it's just there's very little to get engaged and get kind of like you kind of root for. Because I think this is the kind of thing where if done well, it could be really engaging in the sense that where you do root for your character who's kind of morally grey, but you also care about the person chasing them, and that could be a really interesting dynamic where you actually care about both sides of it. But and maybe a way to do this would have been have a few episodes with her, before she even gets the job at this office
or
at Homeland Security,
or at least before she's looking into Punisher.
Yeah,
like her working something else that.
Well, not working at something else per se, but maybe it's just the same case, but she's not gotten that far yet. Like, she's not gotten to he was involved. Like, she's just doing other things.
Yeah,
and maybe that gives you, of course, the moment, say, a couple episodes in where, they tie together because then she says, someone else was on this unit. What's his name? Dun dun dun. Frank Castle. Credits. Like, that could be an end of an episode. A few episodes in.
No, I get it because I think in the first episode it wasn't as. I mean, we knew she was after Punisher because of that's kind of where we was going. But
she actually just casually brings it up like it's not a big deal, and it almost feels like a wasted moment. It's like, make that a thing. Like, make it a thing that he's the one connected to this, and. It could have almost been a thing where, if not that, him watching the video could have been the reveal that that's who that was.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. I don't think, even though she'd said that, I don't think I kind of got how closely entwined he was in this. That he was, maybe the focal point of it. So I feel like maybe saving that video for another couple of episodes until that's why she's doing this. That's what this is.
Yeah,
That's how connected this is. I don't know. It just felt a bit soon.
yeah. I think, I think it's one of these things where there's no twists to it. I mean, I say twists, I don't mean plot twists, and like I'm not saying I want it to be a Shyamalan movie. What I'm saying is everything everything that's laid out and it's sort of mapped out to happen then just happens like it's mapped out. There's no subversions. There's no like kind of changes as we go. There's no character kind of arcs involved. It's just kind of it's playing out exactly. I just mean in a scene by scene basis. Like, oh, this is the scene where this happens and then it happens. This is the scene where this happens and it happens. There's very little kind of like, oh, that's what's happening here, or that's what's going on, that's what he's doing. You know, I'm trying to, like, I'm thinking of, like, say like in Better Call Saul, when Mike is doing something, and he's like, he's got a plan, and he's sort of working it out, and you see him do all these little parts of the plan, and then at the end of the scene, it clicks what he's done, and you're like, oh, that's really smart. And I feel like, with Punisher, his, like, whole setup to, like, catch, or follow, what's his name, Micro back to his base, like, that could be that kind of thing, where, he's setting up this,
But
and
immediately, like, he's in the car.
yeah, immediately you just get what it is. Yeah, and it's there's not that little moment where you're sort of, it's giving you enough to figure things out. It's just kind of really painting it broadly and easily, and it's making it less engaging to watch. And so while it's it's an hour long show and it's got the violence and it's sort of pretending to be mature, it's a little bit surface level in its writing.
It
And
is, yeah.
I think that's the kind of the main problem that we're having.
No, I agree, and I think the shallowness is fine if it wasn't pretending to be something deeper. Like I say, in its technical aspects and the way it's trying to look, and of course the violence, it's really trying to say no, we're more than this. We're this thing, but it's not. And that's okay if it embraced that.
Yeah, if it embraces that, if it just makes it a quicker paced action show, that would be completely fine. I mean, obviously, I mean, I mentioned. Did I mention the Flash earlier? I feel like I did, but if I did or I didn't, whatever. We watched the Flash. We enjoy the Flash. The Flash is not deep. The Flash is not.
Yeah.
Like, not high quality writing or anything like that. It typically just has fun with the fact that it's a goofy show with a guy who can run fast and multiple universes and stretchy people this season like that.
Yeah, and maybe Punisher just needs to embrace okay, you're here for some violence. You're here for some fun.
Yeah, if you're going to be essentially an 80s action revenge movie with a bit of a conspiracy thriller,
take a bit of that tone a bit more.
yeah. And obviously we kind of praised that it wasn't making light of all of its violence and stuff, and yeah, you can still do that in that style, but I don't know. But again, it's kind of a tone thing. Like I feel like in a goofier tone, that wouldn't be a problem though, because it'd have a different tone whereas in this show specifically, with how they've presented him, if he started just killing people willy-nilly and didn't care about it, and it wasn't treated like a dark moment, it would feel disingenuous, so they have to kind of go down that route.
Yeah.
But if you go into it like it's Commando, then it doesn't feel that bad. It feels okay because we're essentially watching a cartoon, but they don't want that tone. And then again, that's fine. I actually admire if you want to shoot for something better, then shoot for something better. But when you're shooting for it and then you miss the hoop,
it's more noticeable, isn't it?
yeah, you can just see the empty net dangling, and it feels kind of hollow.
Do you know, on that note, I think I mentioned it in the first episode, but I think I found the same in the second one. I'm kind of just waiting for the action. I'm kind of sitting around going, all right, when's Frank going to beat up some dude?
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like this is a show that could do with a lot less talking. And I'm not someone who's like, oh, it's just a boring talking scene. But what I mean is, I feel like this is a show that could be really, really just visual. Where you just see, and I don't even mean action, I mean like, just have scenes of him surveying someone, watching, and, like I say, doing things like enacting a plan, planting a ball.
I really like going back to that Better Call Saul analogy, because Mike is a very silent character for the most part. He doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, he's actually. I mean, he doesn't kill as many people, but he's kind of Punisher-esque in a lot of ways with the way he handles things.
Is, yeah, and it's that I think Frank doesn't talk that much, but because we have so much of like, the agents talking, and then we got Karen talking, and we got all these other things that I feel like that there's too much time spent talking. Like it
Yeah.
adds up, doesn't it?
Well, it would be fine if we cared about what we're talking about, but we don't, and that's
Well,
because likewise, I think you could. Here's just another pitch to how to start this season, right? Episode 1, no Frank until the last minute, right? It's all Madani. I keep wanting to say Medina. It's all Madani, right? But we actually care about what she's doing. It takes the entire episode to make us invest in her, show us who she is, why she's doing what she's doing, and you don't quite know where it's leading yet. Obviously, because it's the Punisher, you expect that it's eventually going to get to Frank in some way, but you don't really quite know yet. And it's all building and building, and then there's like a showdown at the end of the episode where she's in trouble. Lights go out, gunfire starts, and it's lighting up the scene, like, you know, kind of like last episode. And then, like, she chases, like, she didn't see who it was, she runs outside to just see him, and we just see, like, the figure walking away, and that's how we come into it there, and that's when we kind of introduce Punisher. And I know some people will be like, oh, you don't get Punisher till the end of the episode. Like, well, whatever. We get 13 of them. They can use an episode to build another character and lead to him like he's the big bad, you know, he's a myth, he's the boogeyman kind of thing in New York. Like, you could do that. I'm offering different ideas in it because I feel like there's a lot of ways to make this engaging, and it's kind of not doing any of them.
It is, and to go back to specifically the dialogue that is there in this episode, I feel like one of the bigger problems that is, you know, easy to point out is Karen stuff, because we already like Karen, we know Karen.
That's true. Yeah.
She's just, all she's doing is going, hey, can you tell me about this case? Like, there's nothing interesting in it. She doesn't put any work in. She just goes, hey, tell me about this. Okay, sure. Yeah. There's nothing to it. It's really easy. It's just, okay, that's it.
Yeah. There's. I mean, the only obstacle is he's hesitant, and then she kind of asks again, and he's like, oh, if I give it to you, will you stop looking at me like that? And that's it.
Right, exactly.
That's the whole scene.
I feel like, okay, that it's nice to see Karen, but why did this need to be Karen at this point? I mean, the rest of the season could completely prove me wrong. And I know, of course, that, you know, she has that relationship with Frank. We got that in Daredevil.
Well, I don't think it's a question, why does it have to be Karen? Like, I think Karen makes a lot of sense. If anything, if he went to a different reporter, I'd be like, why is it not Karen? He knows Karen. I think the issue is that we even get a scene of her asking her boss. If it was going to be this easy, have him ask, like, have the scene play out with him and her, because it's kind of emotional, and she has that bit where she hugs him, and it's kind of nice. Yeah. And have him ask for help, and then just have her, like, give it to him later. We don't actually have to see her get it if it's going to be that easy, because there was no purpose to it. It was just she got it, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree, because you know, the whole thing is he gives her the flowers and says, all right, once you've got something, put the flowers in the window.
Yeah.
I think maybe if we have that moment, all that scene's still there, go off and do all the other stuff that we're doing in between, and then instead of that chat with the boss, just have a scene of her putting the flowers out.
Not even that. Joe, I would actually have him walking past the street and looking up and just seeing the flowers are out, and then from that you just cut to like him doing the next thing. Now he has the information.
Yeah.
That'd be how I'd do it. I'd give her the cameo, and that would be all it would be. I mean, obviously she may be in a lot more of the season. She may have more to do, but
for this episode,
in terms of this episode, just, you know, give her the one nice emotional scene, but make it just that, and then just that's her kind of her scene for the episode. But instead, it goes along with her, and we see her ask her boss, and we have this whole thing. But it's actually really easy.
Yeah, that was a problem for me. I get when she's talking to Frank and giving him the information. It's like, okay, so that's how we're learning about it as well. That's the exposition stuff for us.
And I kind of have a problem with that, because it is just sitting and telling us it all through dialogue, which is a problem.
It's quite an info dump, but we can't, you say, oh, we'll just get on with the next bit of the plot. The next bit of the plot that it would cut to is him going to the family house, and that doesn't work unless we already know who this guy is and why he's there.
But does it? Think about it, right? So he shows up at the house, we go, oh, why is he here? Because we know it's his family. We had the scene already where he's watching his family on the camera. So we've seen he's watching his wife and the kids.
That's a good point.
Right? So partly I think we can just put two and two together. He's gotten the information from her.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And to be fair,
because we see, as long as we see the flowers, that we know that she's given him information.
Besides, he doesn't go straight to the enemy, does he? He goes to Wolf first, because he tracks down Wolf.
Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, it could work, but I mean, there could be a bit of mystery to it. Like Wolf could ask in the scene after we okay, why is he here? And then because. Actually, think about it. Think about the suspense in that scene. We knew Frank was going there because he knew about how we already knew that he'd learned that Wolf had stopped the story. Imagine getting into that scene, but we did not know that, And it wasn't until
You're
I had
right,
him.
and he can tell, like, you go like, why did you stop the story? You know, we can learn about it through that.
Yeah, when he asks him, we'll learn, and it's like,
Yeah, and that probably cuts out,
yeah.
5-6 minutes of the episode just off this stuff.
And it actually makes that scene more interesting, and it makes it a bit more thrilling.
Yeah.
I wasn't starting this thinking we were going to rewrite the episode, but
No, but
here
I
we
think
are.
once I noticed a really notable problem, it's like, well, why is that there? What's the purpose of this?
And I don't want to toot our own horn too much, but I feel like what we just sort of discussed, I mean, it may not be the perfect way of doing it, but I feel like it's better than what the episode gave us.
Yeah, because it's less sitting around getting exposition or just irrelevant conversations. Ultimately.
Exposition is always like one of the biggest kind of problems that writers have. It's like a good writer will take exposition and make sure you get it in an interesting way, because having a character just sit and tell you a bunch of information is never that exciting. Have it be visual, have it keep us guessing a little bit and give us a little bit at a time. An example I always this is a really simple way of solving it, but an example I always bring up is the Terminator, right? Because there's a lot of exposition to give in that movie, because you have to explain to the audience, oh, machines from the future, so, apocalypse happened and all this stuff. And you have to explain that one's came back through time, there's time travel, he's got skin on the outside, but he's actually a robot, blah, 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 blah. All of that exposition, right, and it actually is kind of a dump in that movie, but the way it's kept exciting is that it happens while they're being chased and they're hiding, and it's kind of whispers in between, like, almost being killed, so
it feels like, oh, this is critical information. It's like, look,
yeah,
we could be killed at any minute, but you need to know.
And to be fair, it is all pretty critical information. Yeah,
it is, yeah.
She has to know why she's getting hunted and why she might die if she doesn't trust this guy. It makes complete sense. But that's a really simple way of doing it, because you're just, put it in the middle of an action scene. That's essentially what that solution was. But what we're suggesting here is, no, sprinkle it out a little bit more, make some of it visual, don't just give us it all in one blah 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 scene, because that's all you feel like when you're watching it, is just blah 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 blah.
Yeah. And I think that I've come to tolerate a certain amount of exposition, just because I think, like you say, a good writer can, work around it, but all too often it is just an info dump, and I've come to just tolerate that I'm going to sometimes sit through an info dump.
Especially on TV, I think.
Yeah, which is why I found the scene with Karen and her boss particularly painful, because I think like the scene when she's talking to Frank, I just tolerate, because it's okay, this is the info dump. But the scene where she's getting the information, where we don't learn it, she's just getting it for herself, I'm not gaining anything from that.
No, like I say, the only thing that sets up that we learn in that scene is that Wolf tried to stop it, and it connects him to this overall plot. However, like we kind of
learn it again later.
Yeah, like we kind of rewrote ourselves there. Had we just got to that scene with Frank, had him tied up, and he said, "Why did you block that article?" That question, he says that question, that tells us all of that, and it also works in a sort of suspenseful way, because we're thinking, why is he here? And then he answers that, and it all clicks in place for us.
Yeah.
So it just this things like that are rough.
I think that's the things that stop a show being great. It keeps it at this almost shallow level where it just gives me the information. It just spoon feeds it me. It doesn't draw it out. It doesn't do interesting things with it. It's what stops it becoming a great show.
And I think that's why I'm not hating the show. Like I said, there's things I like about it, but it's definitely feeling a bit tedious at times. It's definitely drawn out, and it's ultimately why this review is. I actually started off with the positive points, because I wanted to get those out there first, because I felt like we're going to start ragging on it, and I wanted to here's what I like about what it's doing. There's some ideas in there,
and I think it's Frank is still by far the most interesting part of the show. But going back to when I said, well, like, my initial thought when this show first was announced is, how long can it sustain him being interesting on his own? And I'm concerned about that now.
Well, see, it's weird because he's interesting and everyone else isn't. So right now he's the thing that's keeping us going. But
it is, but for how long is the question?
Hey, you know what? At least every time he walks into a room, he's not, I'm the Punisher, I'm the sworn enemy of the Hand, I'm the protector of Kunlun.
Yeah, no, touche.
I am the instead of saying the immortal Iron Fist, he'd be like, I'm the Punish vet or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that was awful. But yeah, as much as I've complained about the exposition in this episode, it is nothing compared to Iron Fist's exposition.
Well, that's because Iron Fist would repeat the same exposition like 10 times.
Yeah, we haven't had that yet.
Not yet. Although, I mean, it was kind of bordering on it a little bit with some of the... Because we did learn a little bit of it when Karen was in the office with the boss.
Yeah.
So it did
Which is why I think
bit.
just cut that scene.
Yeah, no, I agree. But even if they cut that scene, her just sitting spoon-feeding it to him isn't as interesting as...
It's definitely not interesting.
Doing something else, yeah. It's just a dump. So... Yeah, I like some good ideas. I like some moments. I think Frank's interesting. I think Micro's okay so far. I'm intrigued as to where that goes.
I have a feeling that by the end of the season, I will be saying the action is by far the high point.
Yeah, I feel like I might be too. Because even though I'm a bit more optimistic in a couple of things compared to you right now,
yeah,
every one of these Marvel Netflix shows, certainly the last like 4 or 5 of them, have all kind of like they've all gotten worse in the second half. And if I feel like I'm feeling like this now, where I've got 1 or 2 optimistic things, I feel like second half I'm going to not be in a great place.
Yeah.
Hopefully this bucks the trend. Hopefully this is the one that gets better.
I'm really hoping it does, because my genuine hope is, okay, this is slow as balls right now. Maybe it's just kind of it's treading water until it kicks into high gear, and then once it does, it can kind of just power ahead instead of having the lull that we usually have.
Here's the hope. You know how some of these 13 episode shows feel like they're in halves? Like, you know, Luke Cage kind of completely shifted to a new plot almost for the second half of the season. I kind of hope that this does the same thing, and the second half is much like better than the first half, and it's more exciting. And
yeah, because obviously, you know, Luke Cage was half. Daredevil season 2 did it with the first 4 being Punisher, and then the rest being bollocks. Iron Fist was just all shite.
Yeah, Iron Fist didn't actually do it. Iron Fist just skipped its bad half at the start. It just thought, well, we'll not waste time doing the good half first. We'll just be bad all the way
Who wants
through.
to see that?
Oh god. Oh well, I guess that's episode 2.
Yep.
Of Punisher. We will be back hopefully tomorrow with episode 3. We'll try and get through these, because part of me just wants to get through these as quickly as possible.
Me too. I kind of want it over and done with, that it's like I could look forward to the next good Netflix show.
I feel like these reviews are for people who come to our channel anyway. I feel like new people who want, I want some good Punisher discussions, are probably going to hate us because we seem kind of down on it. And it's hard not to feel lukewarm. I think that's just kind of where we are with these Marvel Netflix shows.
I'm feeling a bit fatigued, and I did say this on our news video, but for anyone who is new to this, if I wasn't reviewing these, I don't know if I'd be watching this right now. I mean, I almost certainly wouldn't be watching it today.
Yeah, you'd probably just maybe spread it out a little bit more and whatnot. Because it's funny, because obviously we did Stranger Things a couple of weeks ago, and I was like angry that you couldn't like fit the schedule so that we could do like 4 a day.
I wanted to. Don't be wrong.
I was like, God damn it, I will watch the next one, and I was like so conscientious of avoiding spoilers online because it felt like people were talking about it. I feel like hardly anyone's talking about Punisher, in the same scale of Stranger Things.
I'm feeling people going, "Oh, Punisher, been looking forward to that. This is cool."
Oh, I mean, obviously, yeah, sure. If you go to a specific board or something that talks about these things, sure, obviously it'll be there.
Yeah, but just your general Twitter feed.
But my general Twitter feed, I feel like I've barely even seen anyone like mention they've started watching it yet. In fact, on our Facebook group, no one's even posted a thread saying this is the Punisher discussion thread.
That's a good point. That's usually there, as these go up. Like, once this hits whatever time these go up on Netflix, I can't remember.
It's midnight Pacific is when they go up.
There you go. Usually a couple of hours after that, it's like, okay, let's talk.
Yeah, people usually at least rush to check out the first episode, and I feel like it's just kind of like, and I think part of it is fatigue, where we already had 2 shows this year, and one was Iron Fist. Defenders wasn't as bad, obviously. Defenders had some moments.
It didn't live up to the promise, did it?
It did not, and it felt oddly cheap as well. You think that'd be the one they spend the most money on, but for some reason it felt like they were really saving budget on that one. Yeah.
This one, credit to it, does not feel cheap.
No, so far they're doing some, like, the construction was a good sort of set piece sort of place to set some stuff. That all this running up onto the roofs in this episode felt okay.
It's looked pretty good in that sense.
Yeah, so I can't fault that too much. So no, that's fine in that sense. But like I think there's a bit of fatigue, and I think and I think that the faults of the seasons of these Marvel Netflix shows have become more apparent as we've gotten each one, because it's like, okay, we're doing this again. Like, you forgive it a little bit to a point, and then
I think it's notable that for us the best two seasons were the first two, and
yeah,
I don't know. I've not gone and rewatched them because I'm kind of scared to, because I don't know if they are that much better, or if I just enjoyed them more because I wasn't seeing the same flaws over and over.
I've not rewatched them either. Obviously, we're looking forward to Jessica Jones because we both liked that first season a lot. I'm a little bit worried that even if season 1 is exactly as good as I remember it, I'm a little bit worried that season 2 is just going to suffer from everything anyway that everything else has. That I mean, and I like Jessica Jones again in Defenders. She was probably my favourite part of that.
Yep.
But so hopefully that carries me. But I don't know. Anyway, so not to get down on these shows too much. We've got another 11 episodes.
Yeah, we'll try to be positive on the next one.
You say that you're the negative one typically.
I am. What can I say? I'm a cynic.
I'm pretty cynical, but I try and find the positive. I try and find it.
No. Like I said, the positives are Frank and the action when we get it. I just feel like I'm spending a lot of time waiting for it.
Let us know what you think of episode 2 of Punisher in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. You can also find audio feeds of this. Specifically, it's a Marvel show audio feed, so all the Marvel shows are kind of together. You can find that as well. You can get it on your iTunes. You can do all that kind of thing.
Do you know what else is in that feed that we're really excited for coming back?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of sad that I'm so much more excited for that than I was for Punisher.
Honestly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is better than
any of these.
Yeah, even just like, and people who gave up on that show in season 1 or think we're crazy for saying that, but Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got really good.
And this is coming from someone who I did give up on it in season 1. And I gave up. I was like, this is shit. And then I went back, gave another try, and now it's one of the best shows. It's probably the best show on network TV.
Network TV. I'm trying to think what else is on network TV. You're probably right.
Yeah,
you're probably right. But no, it's really good. Season 4 was had high points of the show as well. It's great. Yeah. I care so much about those characters. They have moments where I actually like. I care if people get together, in couples. I care if people live or die. Honestly, it's
the best part of the Marvel universe.
Some of the best villains of the MCU have been on S.H.I.E.L.D., which admittedly is not a lot of competition with some of those movies, but still.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Like, Ada might be my favourite MCU villain. I'm saying it right now. She might be.
Yeah, and Radcliffe as well.
Oh yeah,
it's such a but as a villain, it's the duality of villain or not.
You have to understand, Fitz. I only had the best of intentions. That's my Radcliffe impression. I hope you enjoyed it. So my John Hannah. So no, yeah, I did all the plugs. Yeah, somehow we got into the tangent after that.
Well, that was my fault. S.H.I.E.L.D's awesome, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that was your fault for shoehorning that into my plugs. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching, guys. Keep watching TV and stuff. Have you got any vanilla?